inspired by kingdom principles that work for you.
Hey, viewing audience. It's your girl Rayette with Relationship Matters here on RBNTV Network. Man, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into the shows, for the comments, for the encouragement. I'm asking you to keep tuning in and to subscribe. Tell your cousin, tell your grandma, tell your friends. Let them know that Relationship Matters are coming to you every Sunday. Every Sunday. And so we're here today. Today, actually, we're in the month of October. Can you believe that? It's almost Christmas. But we're in the month of October. And for a lot of persons, they know this month to be the month of breast cancer, Cancer Month. But do you know that this is also the month for domestic violence? And so today I have as a guest one of my good friends. I met her just last year, but it was amazing how we were able to click and how we were able to just flow in purpose. And that's how you know when God's connecting you. It's just a flow. It's just a good feeling. And so she's coming to talk to me today because she knows of the subject so very well. We've talked to the married. We've talked to the singles. We've talked about healthy relationships. Now let's speak to this thing called domestic violence and how it has really been impacting the women, men too, but the women. Let's talk about it and get it right. Let me say from the horse's mouth. Help me welcome my friend, Latanya.
Hi, Rayette, and hello.
How are you?
I am doing wonderful, my friend. It is so good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's good to have you. And you're all the way. Tell them where you are.
I am all the way in Jacksonville, Florida.
In Jacksonville, Florida. Girl, listen to me. As soon as this COVID thing, I'm hopping on a plane because I have another friend that just moved to Jacksonville so we could have a lunch date. Girl, I can't wait for wheels to be up. But so glad to have you here, Tanya. And you know what we're here to talk about, and we're just going to jump right on into it. It's Domestic Violence Month. It's domestic. And I reached out to you to talk to you, and you told me that. I didn't even know that. So I'm now learning on that subject. But tell me, why is this so important to you, Tanya? Let's talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about it. So, as you stated, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month as well as Domestic Violence Month. But a lot of people focus more on breast cancer awareness, and I think that they put domestic violence on the back burner. But
Right.
Rayette, as we know it, even there in the Bahamas, which is my home country, we have been having a lot of domestic violence incidents lately. And even here in the United States, even here in Jacksonville, where I'm currently located at. So it's very dear and near to me because I am a domestic violence survivor as well
Wow.
as I grew up in an environment where domestic violence was prevalent in the home and in my surroundings. So this thing is very near and dear to me. I want to continue to advocate and raise the awareness of how love doesn't hurt, um, and how, you know, domestic violence is a dangerous thing, and we've lost a lot of women um
Yes.
dominantly from it, and in men too, but it's more prevalent among women. So this is why this topic and this subject is so near and dear to me.
I want to ask you a question, Tanya. So you said that you grew up in this environment of domestic violence, and if you want to go deeper, you can go deeper. If you don't want to, that's your decision, and I respect that. But you said that you grew up into this, and then you became a product of it. So is it safe to say that most women that are exposed to this domestic violence thing has in some way been impacted from a child? And because of that aura, that pain, that brokenness, you attract these kinds of persons to you, or you feel like this is the norm. This is what it's supposed to be. This is how love looks.
Well, I don't think it's definitely not the norm. I think it's generational in some instances, and let me use my situation. As I stated, I grew up in a home where domestic violence was very prevalent. My mother is also a survivor of domestic violence, so I
Wow.
saw my mom being abused. And then I
Cycle.
saw it was a cycle, and then I saw other women in my family, like my aunties and other women, even within the community, hearing about other women in the community being abused by their husbands or boyfriends was a norm. But seeing it is another thing too. And I saw a lot of it. And I think, as a result, it became a cycle for me. At the age of 16, I started experiencing that from a
So that's
relationship.
so for you, that's how love looked.
That's how
This is
love
love.
looks.
Love
Yes,
came with this abuse, whether it was verbal, whether it was physical, but this
yes,
is how it looked. And so
yes,
you found yourself attracting to you
yes,
that same kind of person. Now,
yes.
tell me, Tanya, take us to that relationship. What was that like? How did it start? Um, how long did it last? Let's talk about that because I know that there are women and we can be so cruel when it comes to things that we just jump up and say, she should just leave. But is it that easy? We can answer that question later. But is it easy? Are we being a little too hard? And then I'm going to give an example of what I've been through
Hmm.
in terms of seeing it and what I saw. Now, you said your mother was a product of it. How long did she stay?
My mother was a product of domestic violence for at least 8 years, 8 to 10 years, 10 years actually, 10.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it took, and she experienced it 2 weeks after being married. Yeah, 2 weeks after, two
Wow.
weeks after marriage, she experienced domestic violence, and it was a cycle. It continued on until she decided that enough was enough.
Enough was enough. And
Yep.
so,
And
how early in your marriage did you experience it?
a year after I got married, that's when it happened with me. A year.
Okay.
I never saw any red flag. He waited until after we got married, and
Wow.
we were already married for a year.
Okay. Can you tell us like how does domestic violence look from your point of view? What did you
Okay.
go through?
Well, from my point of view, well, this is what happened. We had a simple argument. Um, what I saw after we got married was that he was very jealous. Jealousy is one of the signs of being in a domestic violence situation or relationship, however you want to call it.
Hold on, Tanya, right there, because I don't want to keep stopping you, but I want these points because these are these are these are important points.
Hmm.
Jealousy is not cute. We
No,
think that's cute. Oh, he's so jealous of that's not cute. That's a root to something bigger.
right.
I just wanted to point that out. Go ahead, continue.
So jealousy was one of the biggest things. Like, um, he didn't want me to talk to certain men, even if I knew them from, either my job, which was my place of employment, or college. If he came up and saw me talking to anyone and he didn't know them, that was a problem. Another sign is insecurity. Insecurity is that it leads to jealousy, really. If
Yes,
you
yes,
if a man or a woman don't know who they are, it can cause problems. And that is what
yes,
happened. I don't think he knew who he was. So, and I'm by nature, I'm a friendly person.
right.
So I'm a people's person. My mother is a people's person. That's how I was raised, but it's
Right.
innocently. So that is what led to, our first argument. And of course, he slapped me. That was the first incident. And after that slap, he said to me that he would never ever do it again. But I want to talk to your audience. Anybody that's on this that may even be in a domestic violence relationship. The first hit is never the last one. I
Wow.
want to repeat that again. The first hit is never the last one.
Wow.
And it didn't become the last one either. It continued on until I decided that enough was enough too.
And when
You
did you decide that? What was the deciding factor of this? And in this domestic violence thing, were children birthed from this? See, because
no,
no, you didn't have,
no,
okay, good. So there were
mm-mm,
no children from this domestic violence
no,
relationship.
no,
Okay.
no
So
children.
when did you decide that enough was enough?
Well, I decided that enough was enough when he started doing things like, telling me that I couldn't go this place or that place. I'll give an example. A very good friend of mine passed away. Um, and she's from the Bahamas too. I
Right.
miss her so much. And we were all out. It was me and some other of her friends. We were all out just comforting each other because we was in shock. Um,
Right.
that's natural because of her death. Um, and when I came home that night, he wouldn't allow me in the house. So I had to spend the night by a friend's house. And also, and I don't know what's the age limit of your audience on this, he also forced me to have sexual intercourse against my will. See, this is also some of the things that people don't want to talk about, but that's
Don't want to
domestic
talk
violence
about it.
too. Yep. But this is some of the things that I went through. And I wrote it in my book actually, because I wrote a book and it talks a lot about my domestic violence experiences in that book. But yeah, that was it. And I know one time I had to call the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office because he wouldn't allow me to come out of the house. And I was like,
Wow.
listen, because I'm gonna get Bahamian right now. My mama and my daddy already raised me, and it's no way that I'm gonna allow you to have that control over me.
Control. That's it.
Yeah, that's
That's it.
control. Yep,
That's
that is
it.
control. That's that's one of the biggest things for domestic violence, that domestic violence victims or survivors either face or
Control.
face. That
Control.
was it.
Awesome. Now, like
Control.
I was saying, I remember my own experience with domestic violence. And I remember my dad came home one night just
Mhm.
blurting out all kinds of stuff to my mom
Mhm.
and things that didn't make any sense. Like, where were you? And she's telling him my older brother took the car, so I didn't go anywhere. I've been home, but my older brother has the car, but yet he still
Mhm.
wants to fight and whatever have you. And I remember him beating my mom so bad in her eye.
Mm.
And I was sitting on the seat of the toilet in the bathroom, and she's in the mirror patting her eye, and she removed it. And I looked up and I was like, Mommy, you look like the Incredible Hulk. I could always remember this because I was a child,
Mm.
because
Mhm.
she had like totally deformed. But what I do remember though, Tanya, my mommy taking control at that very moment and
Mhm.
never going back to my dad. And I
Mhm.
think right there in that moment, that gave me strength to say, no woman has to put up with this. But when you're in a
Absolutely.
home like you were, with a mom that's been going through it for 8 years, and you've seen this with aunties, and you've seen this with the community people, is it harder for you to just walk away? That's one question. Number two, is it something laying dormant within us that
Mhm.
says that, you know what, this is the best that we can do? Until we get the inclining or the light bulb comes on and we say, I'm worth more than this. But there are women out there who just don't know what to do. And like you said, we've had reported cases, and this is becoming more and more prevalent here and around the world. Around the world. Is it the sense of we don't know who we are, number one, or number two, this is the best that we can do, or number three, we want a man because society says if we're not whole if we don't have one, and we're staying within these relationships that are not good for us. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are three of them. Number one, not knowing who we are.
Yes.
That is the biggest thing. We're not taught. who we are, because we gotta be
Right.
told. Sometimes we gotta have like other women in the family to say, you are worthy, you are valuable,
Yes.
you are beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
We need to start saying that to the women in our family to let them know that they don't have to accept this type of behavior. And of course, some of us want a man so bad, and then we're forced into situations. We're told
Yes.
by family members, "Oh, you need to get married, and you need to be with this person." And a lot of times, our family members don't see those toxic traits, and they don't understand because they don't be around the person who you may be with, or and this is for other, because I'm talking about women or other persons. So
Right.
that is the problem. Not knowing who we are, not taught who we are, and then wanting a
Right.
man, and wanting a man bad. That's the problem. And a lot of us too, we don't allow ourselves to heal, um to be able
From
to go
past
back
stuff.
into, we don't heal from past stuff, and a lot of us are still holding on to things.
Yes.
You got to be totally healed, from whatever it is that you've been through. And in my case, domestic violence, I'm healed from it. That's why I could talk about it freely without
Yes.
even getting
Yes.
upset.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Have you forgiven him?
absolutely. Um,
Tell me how that process looked. Because listen to me, that you
mhm,
have to be some kind of strong woman. But again, that comes from knowing who you are
yeah,
and healing. It comes from
right.
the healing. So tell us how that process happened. How were you able to look in the face of this man who controlled you and manipulated you and
Mhm.
beat you and say to him, I forgive you?
Well, you know what? I didn't actually look in his face
Okay.
and say, yeah, no, I didn't. After, you know, it was I think it was right before I decided to divorce him. He kept calling me, and I
Mhm.
just told him it was best he move on with his life, because
Okay.
I didn't want to be with him anymore. But I forgave him for the things he did to me. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. You gotta forgive for you. It's not even about the person, it's for you. If we keep things bottled up in us and we don't forgive, we can't even move freely. So I realized
That's
that in order for me to even be in a healthy relationship, I have to forgive the him and any other man that I've had in my life that just didn't do right. So I am
another
free as a
thing.
bird.
Go ahead, Tanya. Go ahead.
I,
You're
I
free
was
as a
just
bird.
saying that I'm free as a bird. I'm flying like an eagle.
Wonderful. Now, people that are watching, viewers that are watching all over the world would
Hmm.
say, Tanya and Rayette, they sit up on their high horse. They don't, they're out of touch. I have to endure this because this is my only source of income. I have to endure this because this man gives me what I need to take care of my children. I have to endure this for whatever reason. What do we say to this woman? Because it's easy for us to say, walk away. It's real easy for us to say it. But is it really, really easy for them to do this?
Well, in all fairness, let me say this. I stayed with my ex-husband for an additional 3 years after the first
Okay.
incident. So I would say that it's not easy to walk away from a domestic violence situation. And even my
Speak.
mother, I'll use it for an example. She stayed for 10 years. So no,
Come
it's
on,
not
speak to
easy.
it.
But
Speak
what
to
you have to do is you have to start gaining some sort of independence. Let me give you an example. And we teach this when we safety plan with domestic violence victims. What you want to do is, like, I remember I was on my husband's, we were on a shared bank account. What I started doing was, I each day I took it one step at a time. I went out one day and I got a bank account on my own. Then gradually I started packing my stuff, and he didn't even realize what I was doing. And I was in at the time when I was going through that, I didn't go to no safe shelters. Neither did I seek out resources for domestic violence. I just used my brain. I just
right.
think. sometimes you just have to think through stuff. You don't make I'm this type of person. I don't make hasty decisions. I do things slowly without you even knowing. Now I know some women, they might not be as strong as me, or they might not be thinking straight to do those things, but I would say little things like that, start gaining more independence. Start just going out there, and if you're not working and you're depending on your husband's finances, I would say to start going out there and looking for employment. Maybe even if you don't have a resume, go out there and seek resources, because I'm telling you, there are resources out there. There are people who will help you, but you
Plan your
you
way of escape.
it is right. It is a way of that's the
Mhm.
beginning of your way of escape. You gotta do something.
Right, right.
Yeah,
You
I
just
and
can't
that's
stay.
what I right.
It's true. I agree. I totally agree. So let's talk about you have a son now.
Yes,
I know you're the joy of your world. What do
yes,
you tell your son as it relates to how he ought to treat a woman? What is the conversation with that? Because I really believe, Tanya, this is my thing. You talked about women in the family telling the girls that they're beautiful, they're worth it. I think this is where the gap with the fathers come in.
right.
And I am a firm believer of that. I tell people all the time, my dad always said that I was smart. He would always tell people that. And when he introduced me to people, he would always say, my smart daughter. And so
Mhm.
consequently, I tried to do my best in school because
Right.
that was the image that my father portrayed
Mhm.
or put on me. I'm a smart girl, so I had to live up to that. But never did he say she was beautiful. Never did she say that she was worthy. And
Mhm.
so the smart came from him. That part of me was affirmed, but I had to go outside of my father to find the things that I wanted to hear. That you're beautiful and you're worth it. And whose hands is it gonna come from? Men that only want to take from you.
Right.
So I think that right there is where the gap is. I know it's good for the women to do, but the
Mhm.
fathers need to start affirming their daughters. You
Right.
are beautiful should be the first words you should hear from your father. And I think a lot of women are going out the parameters of this and looking in the faces of men for this affirmation that should have come from their father. Now you have a son. Your abusive husband, is he your son's father?
No, he's not.
He's not your son's father. What
No.
conversations do you have with him that
Well,
that says to him that I'm rearing you not to
mhm.
be this person
Mhm.
that I was involved with? I don't ever want you to be that person. What are those conversations like?
Well, my son is only 11. So I haven't had that conversation with him yet in terms of as far as me being abused. He'll probably learn that at a later date. But
Okay,
one of the things he will say to me and my mom all the time, Mom, y'all are so beautiful, or y'all look so good. And he's a very affectionate kid. So
right,
he's learning that now from me and my mother. He's
right.
already learning that. And then what I do is I'll take him out to eat sometimes, and I will show him and talk to him about,
That's it.
when he gets
Right,
older, this
right.
is what you should do for the woman that you're dating, or and the one who will eventually be your wife. These are the things you should do, because you are absolutely right. A lot of the past generation and even this generation, we aren't being taught. And you know what? You cannot do what you're not taught. Okay.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
that is so I'm having conversations with him now, and even with respect, what comes out of your mouth when it comes to a woman.
Exactly.
I don't want you calling a woman out of her name, because you don't hear that in this household. So it's things like that that I'm doing now, so that when he's at the age where he can date, that he will already know what what it is he should say and do when it
Now, I know
comes to
you
treating
said
a
that,
woman.
sorry, Tanya, I know that you said that he's 11. but I could
Mm-hmm.
tell you no better time. Now, I don't
Yeah.
expect for you to get in depth and sit down and say, oh, this man was doing this to mommy and whatever.
Yeah.
But I think even as single mothers, because there's a
Mm,
lot of them out there
yes.
that's doing the best that they can to raise these boys, I think
Right.
that it's important for at that age now to affirm him as well. So when he
Right.
comes to you and says to you, mommy, you're beautiful, you say to him, that's exactly what a man says to a woman. That's exactly how you are to treat a woman. You let him open the door for you. You let him bring in the grocery. You affirm his manhood.
Right.
And so when he gets to that age, you're not there scrambling, trying to figure out what you can do with this boy. So I
Right.
applaud you. I truly applaud you with that. Now, I know you said that you're an advocate for this. Tell me some of the things that you're working on, what you're doing to bring awareness to this and solutions to this domestic violence situation that is just taking over the world, actually.
Well, I am a victim advocate at a local domestic violence agency here in Jacksonville, Florida. So that is one of the ways of how I, give back and also assist women who are in the same situation as I have been. I also and the biggest thing with advocacy is speaking out against it. So that's what I'm doing. Like even now, I'm speaking out against it on your show. And I also spoke about a month ago on a show in Atlanta. So you got to keep
Yes,
talking about the
yes,
situation. You can't keep
yes,
it. You cannot be closed in. You can't keep that information to yourself. You got to speak out to be able to help other people. And also,
I
I
agree.
donate too as I can. I donate to anybody that's doing domestic violence events, and then I contribute a monthly fee to a local organization too that deals with domestic violence. So that is how I'm advocating to help other domestic violence survivors and past victims. I also wrote a poem on YouTube, and it's called "I Am Free." No, I'm free. It's on YouTube and it's
Okay.
yeah, and you can listen to that. That was written about a year ago. Yep.
And all of this comes from your experience with this.
Yes. All of it comes from
See,
my experience.
and that's another thing. I'm proud of you, Latanya, because a lot of persons, a lot of women may be embarrassed by this situation because we kind of take this burden of it's our fault. And I
Yes.
think what we want um, women to understand too. I don't care how annoying you are or what you do. It's never okay for a man to abuse you, whether
Right.
that's physical abuse, whether that's verbal abuse. There's no manipulation and control, none of that. You're not, none of that. There's nothing that you can do to ever deserve that. So I want
Right.
to applaud you for just speaking out, for doing whatever is necessary. Now I want you, in our last couple of minutes together, I want you to speak to women out there that are experiencing this because I know that a lot of women are doing this in silence,
Mm-hmm.
either because we're embarrassed, we want to make the world believe that we have the perfect relationship. Listen to me. I am the type when I'm hurting, I'm going to scream out. So if I'm having that situation, the world is going to know. And trust me on that. But there are a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people that are they're just suffering in silence. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want anybody to think that my little happy home is not happy. I don't want anybody to think that my wonderful life that I portray on Facebook and Instagram is not the life. And then they're being controlled and manipulated and they're not happy, but they have to come out and smile for the camera and just
Mm-hmm.
very candid camera. Let's speak to those women. How do we get them to understand that listen, you gotta get some help. You gotta talk to
Right.
someone, you gotta do something. What do we say to them?
So what we would say to those type of women is this. I like to say this: domestic violence doesn't discriminate. Domestic violence don't care who you are. You can be the most prettiest girl out there. You can
Yes,
be
yes,
dressed up or well spoken. You can
yes.
have one of the highest paid job there is. It doesn't discriminate. But what I want every woman on this broadcast to know that you are not alone. And you don't have to suffer in silence because there is help out there. I'm telling you, I even when I experienced what I experienced, there was help, but I chose not to. go and get those resources. Actually, my sister and her husband was my resource because my sister is a Bahamian too, and you know she don't play that way yet. She didn't play that. She came and got me. She was like, "You're gonna you're gonna leave, whether you want to or
Wow,
not."
wow, wow.
So yeah, so and you know, and even if you don't feel like you can talk to family members, because I know sometimes and friends. Sometimes friends and family members can be judgmental, but if
Yes,
there are other community resources out there where you can go and speak with someone like such as a victim advocate, and everything that you share with those agencies will remain confidential. So there is help, and I'm employing you to on this day, October the 10th, to please, if
yes,
you are in a domestic violence situation, please seek help, because
yes,
it would sadden me to
yes,
know that because you didn't seek the help that you would lose your life
yes.
over
That's it.
something like this, because so
That's it.
many women have died from
Yes,
domestic violence, and I do not want you to become statistic a statistic to
yes,
domestic violence.
yes.
So that is all I want to say.
That's really, 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 really good, Tanya. And again, we can't really reiterate anymore that if you're in that situation, and like I said, I can't speak to it because I've never been in it.
Right.
But what I can say is I've seen it. It's just like last week, a lady died because she's I don't know. I don't want to say she stayed too long, but maybe
Mhm.
she didn't get the help that she needed. Maybe she was crying out. But I
Mhm.
want women to understand that, like you said, there are resources out there.
Mhm.
There are
Mhm.
people that you can talk to. Go and talk to somebody. Stop covering up with masks and facades. We already have to use masks for COVID. Come on, let's take off the
Right.
other mask.
Yeah.
um, because this is really, really serious. Because again, my seriousness and the aspect that I come from it is, I deal with the little girls and young ladies. This is a perpetuated cycle.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And so if you don't heal the brokenness and get the help that you want, you can see that show up again in your daughter, and then she goes and have a baby and that shows up with her. Where
Mhm.
does the cycle end? Even if it doesn't end for you, even if it's okay for you, look into the eyes of your children, man. Look
Mhm.
into the eyes of your children and say, I gotta be strong for them. I
Absolutely.
have to be strong for them. Tanya, that was amazing. But I think that there's still so much more that we can talk about. We've run out of time, but we've not run out of content. And so we're going to
Mhm.
make this part two. And so for the viewing audience, this ends right now. But I want you for the next show, we're going to come back and we're going to continue talking to Latanya Maynard on this whole spew of domestic violence. Thank you so much for tuning in, my viewing audience. I'm your girl, Rayette Spence, Relationship Manners. And remember, we're changing lives, one relationship at a time.
You're watching RBNTV. We are networking, promoting, we're scoring points for you, proclaiming, declaring, here to encourage you. No matter the problem, we will enlighten you. We hear you, please listen. There is a point of view. You're watching RBNTV. We're transforming minds, empowering lives, inspired by kingdom principles that work for you.